Sixth grade, happy Thursday. We're ready to get rolling on lesson 3 in ancient history as we continue to study China. Yesterday we spent some time talking about their society, their culture, their belief systems. We talked about the 3 major philosophies that came out of that, with legalism, with their harsh punishments, and Taoism, trying to live simply and in harmony with nature, and then Confucianism, probably the most famous one, where you understand the greater good, think about the community above yourself, and do your duty that they have been called to have. Today we're going to move on with a couple more dynasties. So if you go back to lesson 1, remember we started with the Shang dynasty. The Shang dynasty then moved on to the Zhao or Zhou dynasty. And today you can see we're going to get the Qin dynasty and the Han dynasty. So when we're all said and done, we're going to go through 4 different dynasties. The essential question is, how do governments change? And it matters because stable government builds solid growth and strength in the civilization. And so we always talk about how can we connect ancient history to what we're going through today, guys. This is big for us. I don't know what your thoughts about our government are, but it seems to me that all they do is argue the whole time. Republicans yelling at Democrats, Democrats yelling at Republicans. That doesn't really make stable. And so is that holding us back from being a solid, and is it holding us back from being growing and strong? Those are the things that we have to do. Now, obviously, differences of opinion are good to discuss that and go around and figure out what the best idea is. But if all we do is argue the whole time and don't get along, is it going to have a negative effect? And so we can learn something from ancient China here to see how it applies to us today. Let's start talking about this Qin dynasty. You have read about the fighting in China from the 400s to the 200s BC, during the period that is known as the Warring States. The strong rulers of local states fought one another and ignored the weak Zhao kings. One of these states was called Qin. In 221 BC, the ruler of Qin sent a large cavalry force to defeat the other states and end the Zhao dynasty. The Qin then controlled China from the Huang He to the Shang Zhang. So you got number 1 in your notes, guys. These little states now conquering each other, and this guy pretty much takes over China as we know it from the one river to the other river. To mark a new beginning for China, the Qin ruler declared himself Qin Shi Huangdi, which means the first Qin emperor. Qin brought changes to Chinese government that would last for many centuries. So you cruise into number 2 of your notes there when you get the name and the title he gave himself of Shi Huangdi. And now we'll just keep using his family name of Qin. Qin wanted to strengthen and unify China. To do that, he took direct control of China's provinces. You have number 3 in your notes as you get cruising through this. Under the Zhao kings, the governors of the provinces had passed on their positions to sons and relatives. Now only Qin had the power to appoint the governors. So you can see, I want to get China together. Step 1, guys, you got to understand this. He is in absolute power. Step 2, I'm going to put people in charge of each state that are loyal to me. So you picture that in the United States state, we'd have a president. He says, I want to run this country a little bit different. Instead of each state electing their governor, I'm going to name the governor. Well, okay, that's going to make all 50 states loyal to him, isn't it? If you were in the United States, that's why I used the number 50. So he gets to pick them. Qin ruled China with absolute control and swift and harsh punishment. So you got number 4 in your notes. You can see a little bit of that legalism in there. Anyone who disagreed with him was punished or killed. Writings that displeased Qin were burned. Qin also increased the power of his government by appointing officers known as censors. The censors' job was to make sure government workers did their work. Guys, we use that word censorship today too. Censorship is limiting what you can say and do kind of thing. So you've been censored, you can't say those things. So you can see what he does. Number 1, he's very powerful. He'll punish or kill anybody who's bad-mouthing him. But number 2, he also gets rid of the writings that displease him. So can you imagine today if our government, let's say, controlled the TV, or maybe we want to use social media today. And so I'm president, I'm saying, nope, you can't say that on the news, that makes me look bad. Nope, you can't write that in the paper, that makes me look bad. Nope, you can't put that on social media, that makes me look bad. And so he controls that, and he gives power to officials to make sure they're doing their work. Hint, hint, they're doing the work the way he wants them to do their work. So this guy is controlling everything that's happening here. Qin developed other policies and projects to unify the empire. He created a currency. Currency is a type of money that everyone had to use. He hired scholars to simplify and set rules for the Chinese writing system. Qin also undertook building projects, including the construction of his own tomb. Qin's tomb was so large that it housed an army of life-sized clay soldiers and horses. Qin also ordered tens of thousands of farmers to build palaces, roads, dams, and a huge canal. The canal connected the Shangjiang in central China to what is today the city of Gaozhou in southern China. The government transported supplies on the canal to soldiers in distant territories. Okay, guys, you got number 5 in your notes, this building project. And what I want you to take in with this big, huge paragraph is, in my mind, a ton of the positive things he did. Number 1, he unified it with money. Can you imagine if you lived in the United States and every state had its own money? So in Wisconsin we use the dollar, but in Minnesota you use a peso, the money from Mexico. And in Illinois to the south they use the franc, money from France. I'm just making up different monies out there. Think how hard it would be to do business. Today, when we travel internationally, we run into that problem. I go down to Mexico and I want to buy a blanket and it costs 500 peso. Well, all I hear is the word 500. I'm like, well, way too much money. Well, not if a peso is only worth a penny and 500 pesos is only $5. That's a really good deal, but I don't know what a peso is worth because I never use that thing. So Qin says, I'm going to put this all together so we can sell to each other and we all know what's going on. We're going to all have the same writing system. We're going to start to build these projects. So he's doing a ton of those things that are really, really important that unify and make a country great. Okay, he also ordered this building project. If you remember way back to chapter 1, guys, this is the clay army we've discovered of him. It's probably one of the most famous things he's known for is his it's his tomb. I forget the number. It's like 8,000 literally life-size clay soldiers, and each soldier is unique. In other words, it's literally carved after a real human soldier. Let's keep talking. Okay, canal for the trade. Qin united the different parts of China into one empire. He wanted to keep the empire safe from invasion. A vast desert known as the Gobi was on the edge of China's northern border. Nomads, people who moved from place to place with herds of animals, lived in the Gobi. The Chinese knew them as Xiongnu. The Xiongnu were skilled warriors who fought on horseback and often attacked Chinese settlements. Earlier Chinese rulers had constructed separate walls in the north to keep out the Xiongnu. Qin planned to make the walls joined and strengthened. Okay, so you have number 6 in your north. They each had their little walls built, and he's going to make this thing massive. So guys, you have these nomads. They travel around, and what are they? They're great warriors because all day they know how to ride on horseback. So they'd come in and raid a settlement and take their food and cattle and the things they need that you do as a nomad, and Qin says, I got to make this better. So he's going to build today what is known as the Great Wall of China. It was built to help protect them. We'll talk a little bit more on the second reason. Yes, I want to keep the bad guys out. The second reason we built the Great Wall of China is keep the good guys in. In other words, Qin didn't want his Chinese people leaving. And some people who didn't like him would have wanted to leave the country. Nope, got a Great Wall stopping you from doing that. The Great Wall, guys, of China is absolutely massive. It's super tall, super wide. You can literally drive a car down it today, and absolutely brilliant. Please don't think he built this whole wall himself. This is built literally over thousands of years as he unites different walls, and then other people take it on. In 221, Qin boasted that his dynasty would rule China forever. The Qin dynasty actually ended soon after his death in 210 BC. Both aristocrats and farmers revolted against the harsh Qin rule. Fighting erupted throughout China, and in 206 BC, the Qin dynasty was over and a new dynasty arose. Okay, so you got number 7 in your notes, guys, with the date of 206. So what's amazing is Qin. We study the Qin dynasty, guys, but it's not a dynasty at all. It's literally one man. He rules for about 20 years. He does a lot of great things. He passes away. He tried to keep his death secret, the leaders did, so that they could put his son on the throne. And as soon as they found out that the main guy was gone, they revolted. And you can see the problems, guys. He had worked the farmers too hard with all these building projects, so the average person didn't like him, but he also censored all the government officials and appointed his own governor, so even the rich didn't like him. And so when he falls apart, it falls apart. Okay? Here's a little bit about the Great Wall. It says, many things get built and rebuilt over time. Building the Great Wall in China took several years. Qin forced hundreds of thousands of farmers to leave their fields to work on the wall. Thousands of laborers died before the project was completed. The finished wall, which is known as the Great Wall of China, was built mainly on the northern slopes of mountains using stone, sand, and rubble. However, Qin did not build the wall that stands today. The Great Wall today consists of a series of walls and towers built during the Ming Dynasty beginning in the late 1400s. So it's been rebuilt, guys, is what they're getting at. You can also see this. I'm a farmer. I get sent to do this project, and tons of them died. And they were just literally buried right within the wall. All right, let's get the next dynasty. In 202 BC, the new dynasty known as the Han Dynasty came to power in China. Its founder was Liu Bang, a farmer turned soldier. His family began the powerful Han Dynasty that would rule China for more than 400 years. You have a number 8 in your notes. The first strong emperor of the Han Dynasty was Han Wudi, who ruled from 141 to 87 BC. So you can see the length of time, guys, 50-some years that he ruled. Han Wudi took important steps to improve China's government. Earlier emperors chose family members and loyal aristocrats to help run the government. Han Wudi wanted to end this practice. He recruited dedicated and talented people for civil service. Number 9 in your notes. As you write that down, let's learn what civil service is. Civil service is government workers who were chosen on a basis of competitive tests. So I got to get my government to run. From lesson 1, you knew that was by heredity. Dad hands it down to son. Now he says, forget that. I want the most dedicated and talented. I don't care if you're from a wealthy family. I don't care if you're from a farming family. We're going to take a test. Who's ever the best gets the job. First, scholars and officials recommended qualified candidates. Then, the candidates took long, difficult written examinations. Finally, officials graded the tests and the emperor reviewed the results. The candidates with the highest score got the jobs. So you can see how his system worked. You have number 10 in your notes, guys. So you're taking these competitive tests. You think about that today, what we do for high school seniors trying to get into a good college. I recommend you take this test, you take this ACT. I look at the results of the ACT, and the kids who score the highest things on the ACT, colleges try to recruit and offer scholarships for because they're big brains, thinking they'll do great things when they get out of there. Although this system of selecting government officials raised the quality of government, the system also had its faults. Supposedly, government work was open to anyone with talent and ability. Realistically, the system actually favored the rich. Why? Only wealthy families could afford to educate their sons for the difficult civil service tests. So guys, it sounds good on paper. We say it's open to anybody. But do certain people still have an advantage? Yes. Will they always have that? Yes. Okay? In America, do we say, hey, anybody can do anything they want? Absolutely. Do rich people have an advantage? Yes. Might we be tempted to say, that's not fair? We might be tempted, guys, but all you have to do is reverse the thinking. If I had a ton of money, would I want to give my kids the best education so that they could get the best jobs and continue to make a lot of money? Yes, I would. If that means I can afford to hire a private tutor, great. If that means I can send them all over the place, in other words, let them go study college in Europe because it's better there, great. If I want to take them a bunch of trips to say, hey, you want to see what the Great Wall of China looks like? Let's fly there and learn. You want to see what the Colosseum in Rome is like? Let's fly there and learn. Does that give them a big advantage? Yes. Is that unfair? I don't think it's unfair, guys. It's realistic. I'm going to give the best I possibly can for my kids because it's my right to spend the money however I want. So obviously, guys, it's never going to be equal because wealth and power aren't equal. Is there a fair way to do that? I don't really have that answer. What does Milwaukee try to do to level the playing field? They created the parental choice program. What's the parental choice program? Parents, you can choose with your tax dollars what school you want to put them in. Why did Milwaukee develop that? Milwaukee said, hey, it's not fair. Certain schools get way more money, therefore they're putting out way better education for certain students. So certain students have an advantage and they're charging money to get into that school. So only the wealthy can afford that, and other kids can't get into the good schools, and so they're stuck going to a school that's not as good. And so Milwaukee said, yeah, we'll send your tax money wherever you want. You want to send them to that school, and they're part of the choice program, go ahead and do that. And what that did, guys, is number one, it allowed parents to choose, and number two, it created competition. And competition is a really good thing as far as if I'm the only school that you can go to, what do I care if I'm good or not? Because if I'm bad, guess what? You still have to go here. If I'm good, it's good for you, but you still have to go here. But as soon as you have a choice, I better be good or you're going to go somewhere else, aren't you? And so it made the schools say, we got to make sure we're top of the line doing all kinds of really good things. So you should probably put that into top of your notes today. How do we try to level the playing field? So I would write up here, make it equal equals choice. Okay, you got to give choices to be able to do those things, guys. And that, I think, is one of the most important things we can always do in America is we want competition. Because competition forces you to be better. If you don't like the way Fords are, buy a Chevy, right? And so Ford better be good or everybody's going to start buying Chevy. All right, let's keep cruising. The Han government created schools to prepare students for civil service. Students prepared for the exams by studying law, history, and the ideas of Confucius. After many years of schooling, the students took the civil service examinations. If they passed, they earned jobs as government workers or teachers. They also won great respect in society because they were well educated. Okay, number 11 was on that last page, guys, where only the rich got the advantage. And then number 12 you have in there as well with Confucius. So you can see his belief system of the civil service and give it to who's ever the best. Also understand what comes along with this. You're going to pay a hefty price, and I'm going to step back and I'm going to give you a ton of respect. We do that today too. I have a lot of respect for lawyers and doctors. Why? They went to college for 8 years to graduate there. A teacher goes to college for 4 years, right? And so they set themselves above. They paid a hefty price. I have a lot of respect for them for their knowledge and their determination to get through that. During the years of Han rule, China's population rose to about 60 million. To meet the needs of China's growing populations, farmers needed to produce more food. However, China's farmers face several special challenges in doing so. You got number 13 in your notes with the population. When farmers died, their land was divided among their sons. Gradually, over several generations, the amount of land farmed by a family became smaller and smaller. By the middle of the Han Dynasty, the average farmer owned only about 1 acre of land. So you have number 14 in your notes, guys. We talked about that last time, how you took the land and divided it up, and we kept chopping it smaller and smaller. Farmers could not raise enough food to feed their families on such small plots of land. They had no choice but to sell their land and work as tenant farmers. Tenant farmers worked land owned by someone else. Eventually, wealthy landowners owned thousands of acres, and tenant farmers remained very poor. So you have number 15 in your notes, the flaw problem. Eventually, over time, we got too small. I only own an acre. That's not even enough food to pay for my family, let alone pay any taxes that I'm supposed to be paying. And so I sell my land, and now I just work it. So now I'm back to having more land, but let's say they gave me 20 acres, and 2 of those acres are going to be for me, and 18 of those acres are going to be for the rich guy who owns it. And so I'm back and I'm stuck. The wealthy keep getting wealthier, the poor keep getting poorer. As China's population grew, the Han Empire took in new territory. Han armies conquered lands to the north, including Korea. They moved south into Southeast Asia and west as far as northern India. After Han Wudi's armies pushed back the Xiongnu, the nomads to the north, the Chinese lived in peace for almost 150 years. Okay, so you can see number 16 in your notes there. That's going to bring us to the end of today. But One of the things we did is, hey, there's not enough land to give out anymore, so what do we have to do? Piece of cake. We just got to go conquer more land. Then we have more to distribute to give out to these people. So they're trying to solve problems, guys. It's not always easy, but they're working on it to be able to get the land as big as they can. You can see Korea here, guys, up there. Were part of it that they conquered. Okay, we'll pause there today. We'll pick it up tomorrow. Have a great one.